All right, here we go. We're going live today. Mandy and I are going live today to talk about growing your own food. So, hi, vibrantly nourished, belly healing, teddy wear, Garacenas. Hi, there's Mandy. All right, Mandy, I want to get you on here. Hi, everyone. Hi, Mandy.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good. This is my
Yeah,
subject.
I need to turn you up a little bit. Here we go. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Awesome.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, so we've got 1 hour to get it all in because Anthony's going live today on Amazon at 1 o'clock.
Mhm.
Yeah. So just give a quick introduction. My name is Michelle. I have been successfully following medical medium for nearly 5 years, and I've healed all kinds of health issues. Hi, Nicholas. And so I live in Bryson City, North Carolina. My husband and I have 12 acres where we grow food and we have vacation rentals. And our properties overlook the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and Fontana Lake. And yeah, we raise honeybees, and um, that's about it. Today we're going to talk about growing food the medical medium way. So, Mandy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So glad you're here. I'm Mandy Palmer. I'm an intuitive health strategist, and I've been following the medical medium path myself for a little over 5 years and helping people and guiding people in this path as well for about 5 years. And I've healed a lot of things as well. Still working on a few things, as they pop up, as this healing journey is, it's just what it is. I know a lot of you are dealing with a lot of things. So what's wonderful about today is the magic of growing your own food that Anthony William talks about. He has that podcast out, he has that meditation, and Michelle is an amazingly, I think you're a very experienced grower, but that's because I have like no experience in all of this. So I am learning. This talk is about. I'm going to be learning. Michelle's going to be sharing all of her knowledge, and I'm sure we'll be picking up a lot of knowledge from you guys. But yeah, but I'm excited to talk about this stuff today.
Yeah,
Again.
I know. I know. So, experience and experimenting are very close words, right? So, yeah, my very first garden, we're on 12 acres, but I have an isolated area for the garden, which is 3,000 square feet. And my first garden 6 years ago was a complete fail. And, you know, what has, I don't know, I've always wanted to grow food. My mom had a green thumb. I don't remember really learning anything from her, but, I would always keep the kind of house plants in your house that are hard to kill, like philodendron and spider plants and mother-in-law's tongue and schefflera, things like they're really difficult to kill. And, you know, I, I finally came to the realization through the help of medical medium that our plants thrive to the level that they're nurtured. And it is a direct reflection of how we nurture ourselves. So, um, all of us, right, at some point in our lives, we get into that rat race and we don't necessarily care, have self compassion for ourselves. And our body then starts speaking to us, right? And, it hurts here, and I'm having some brain fog, and my memory is lacking, and why am I having this mystery pain and numbness, and that's that's a sign that we're not nurturing ourselves as well as we could be, right? So I have learned that in order to care for my plants, I have to care for myself, and vice versa. And that's when they thrive. So, yeah. So, after years of experimenting and learning from others, I, I am finally successfully growing most of the food that I plant, but I still, some things just don't make it. And there's all
Mhm.
kinds of reasons for it, and some of them can't be explained. And so I've got 3,000 square foot of food that I'm growing. And then we have on different areas of the property, we've got muscadine grapes, we've got apple trees, we've got blueberries and raspberries and elderberries, um, fig trees, pawpaw trees. I think that I think that's it for now. I've got a black cherry tree on its way. Yep. And we have wild blackberries that grow all over the property. So,
Oh,
yeah. So, and I've also learned that, you know, sometimes gardening is hard on the body. And I, for the longest time, I hated weeding, you know, just going down there and getting the weeds out of the garden. So, a couple of things I really want to talk about today is how to avoid the weeds, but also learning your weeds. Because, hi, Joris, because a lot of those weeds are wild edibles, they're medicinals.
mhm.
And since learning about these, now I find them and I'm like, oh my God, I'm grabbing them up every day and juicing them, you know, or throwing them in my salad. So, yeah. So
Yeah,
I hope it's
identifying those can be tough. I need a plant app in order to do that still, you know. I mean, like we have a lot of dandelion that grows around here. The house that we live in, there's a lot of dandelion out in the backyard, but you know, I have two dogs and they will pee on things, and so I honestly haven't even been taking that, um, just because of that. But I've done it before. I just didn't do it this year.
yeah.
But yeah,
And you know,
identifying those is, you know, takes some learning and takes maybe a plant app to help you out or a friend who knows things.
yeah. Yeah, and you know, Asheville's great for that. They have all kinds of professionals that will actually take you on wild edible tours. Um, so one of the things that I think is really important to share today is the symbiotic relationship that we have with plants
Mhm.
that medical medium writes about. Um, I didn't really get this until reading his books and listening to his podcast of growing your own food. Um, there is a healing that takes place. Okay, whether you have a lot of space to grow, whether you're growing sprouts on your counter or microgreens inside your home, or you have a tiny little patio and you're growing one tomato plant, right? Um, I've got to stop reading the comments because my mind goes to that when I get off track. Uh, so um, the act of growing anything is creating an opportunity for healing. Just growing something creates healing in the body, the mind, and the soul. The act of picking fruit or whatever you're growing is an act of healing. And
Mhm.
then eating that food is a third different kind of healing that takes place. Um, so even if all you have the space to do is to grow sprouts inside your house, you still get, can you increase your volume? Am I not sounding loud enough?
Yeah, a lot of I notice on our recordings, like your voice is always much lower than mine.
Oh, okay. I just turned it up a little bit.
I would not know how to fix that.
Okay. I'll talk a little bit louder. There's a bald eagle flying above me right now. I, oh my God. So if all you can do is grow sprouts inside your home, you're still getting elevated biotics, which is a term that medical medium coined, right? Um,
Mhm.
and I,
Well, probably Spirit of Compassion told them, but yeah.
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah.
Anthony, talks about is translated through spirit of compassion. So it's just there's so much that I'm so excited. There's so much that I want to talk about. Um,
Well, yeah, the elevated biotics, I mean, they're, well, first of all, you said there's three ways we heal when we are growing, picking, and eating
yeah,
what we're growing, the act of growing, the act of picking, and of course the act of eating. So let's break these down a little bit. So start with how healing it is to just be growing your own food and that aspect of it. Let's talk about that first.
yeah. So there's what happens when you grow anything. That plant picks up on you. It actually can read what physical, mental, emotional, soulful ailments you have going on in your system. And it is such a magical thing that the plants that we grow, that we touch, whether we speak to them or sing to them. Not everybody sings to their plants like I do, but whatever we're doing and interacting with those plants, Anthony says it's like an angel coming down and touching you on the top of your head. That is like, it's just incredible. These plants read what is off in our system and they know how to heal it, and they will actually grow specifically for our health needs. Once you become aware of this, you want to introduce yourself to the plants that you're growing. It sounds silly, but you just want to introduce yourself and thank the plants for growing for you and for everybody that you're feeding. um, that interaction is more magical than we could ever imagine. And then if you can't grow anything, you can go to an orchard, hopefully one that doesn't use pesticide, or a fruit picking property where you can pick berries or apples or whatever they are. And you want to, when you go there every year, take your kids and pick those fruits and try to choose the same tree every single year. Introduce yourself to that tree, and every single year go back to that tree, and that tree will grow for you. That fruit will grow for you, for your specific needs. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So I want to. Um, would you like to talk about elevated biotics and how that works in the system?
Sure. I just want to point out Radiant Life Michelle says he says it's their way of thanking us for tending to them.
Yeah, that makes total.
So acclimating themselves and developing themselves specifically for our needs is their way of thanking us. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so the elevated biotics that naturally appears on fresh, raw foods, the tops of the leaves, the fruit themselves. So specifically when you're growing something like leafy greens that have like a lot of crevices in them, like kale, that's going to have a lot more of these elevated biotics. And these elevated biotics are not the same thing as probiotics. You cannot buy these in a bottle. You cannot buy them at the store anywhere because science doesn't really know about them. So these elevated biotics growing on everything, just your entire garden is just full of all these things, but not just your garden, right? If you're growing microgreens inside, if you're growing your sprouts inside, that's what I've been doing. I've been doing lots and lots of sprouts. And I'm so happy now that I'm getting such a higher level of elevated biotics because when you're buying everything from the grocery store, you're not necessarily, in order to get those elevated biotics, it has to be something fresh. It can't be washed with soap. It can't be washed with any kind of Cleanser, like everything I buy from the store, I use a little bit of soap and I use a little bit of food grade hydrogen peroxide to kill everything because people are picking their nose, touching their face, and then picking everything. So food from the grocery store is not going to be your source of elevated biotics. It's going to be anything wild that you pick. We were on a hike. I know this was like last year. I mean, we go hiking a lot, but we saw berries growing on the side of the trail, and we decided, yes, they were indeed blackberries. So we picked them, we ate them. Wild blueberries grow up here too, up in the higher elevations. Sometimes it's easy to find, sometimes not so much, but all of those, even, someone like me who hasn't been growing anything, I still feel like I'm getting lots of elevated biotics because I've taken advantage of that in my life. Or, I'll eat, not this year, like I said, but I'll eat the dandelion that's growing in my backyard that I'm pretty sure the dogs didn't pee on. But even so, you can still give it a light rinse. Like he says, just a light rinse, because think about like rain. The rain isn't necessarily going to wash off these elevated biotics. So if you run it under some water, just some really nice light trickle, just to wash a little bit of the dirt off, it's still going to keep those elevated biotics there. So yeah, so sprouts, microgreens.
Talk about what they are and how they work in the system.
Yeah, no, I was getting to that.
I also want to mention that the elevated biotics are you can also get from the local farmers market.
Right, you can. I'm still not a fan of anything that someone else has touched. I'm not a fan of not washing it.
But for those who
I know
don't have access,
that.
yeah, but for those who don't have access to growing their own food, this is the second best option, is getting it from the farmers market.
Yeah, and sprouting on your counter. Sprouting is super easy. I used to be intimidated by sprouting, but then, I got that the tray that he had, which I don't even use anymore. I use the mason jar with the lid. I just find that so much easier. But I used to be really intimidated by just sprouting, and now I feel like I'm a pro at sprouting. And it's really so easy. So if you're like me and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to grow anything, I don't know what to do, sprouting really, truly is easy. So the role that these elevated biotics play in our body is they actually do something extremely important in our small intestines, in a part called the ileum. They make our B12. They make it. It's absolutely incredible that that's what does it. And the reason that this is so important is because it has to do with our methylation. This area of the body, the ileum, that's where methylation happens. And methylation is us basically breaking down nutrients into smaller, usable micronutrients for the body to absorb it. And the B12, right there in that part of your intestine. So when you eat those things, when you eat the sprouts and the fresh, raw food from the garden or farmer's market or something you picked in your yard, that goes down, it goes down to the ileum, it stays there, and it makes B12, and that B12 is absorbed right there in that part of your intestines. And
it is the most powerful B12 on the planet. There's nothing that compares. The probiotics, it's all the little microorganisms that are on the plant, that are on the leaves, that withstand the winds and the rain and the winters sometimes. He says that for plants that grow year round, like how kale can grow year round. I've got onions that grow year round. Those are the most powerful elevated biotics in forms of B12 that you can get into your system.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's
the probiotics.
That B12. Sorry.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, that B12 is going to be even more powerful than the Vimergy supplement with the methylcobalamin and adenosulcobalamin. Yes, we take that, but we're taking that for one to get a really medicinal dose of B12, which is going to be really healing to the brain, the central nervous system, to help us address our deficiencies of it, because many of us are so deficient in so many things we have no idea, and that does not heal by taking a supplement. It heals by the liver healing. You cannot heal deficiencies until the liver heals. So we're taking that so that our body can get it. And one reason that we also need the supplement is because this area of our body, most of us who are on this healing journey are trying to heal things, especially in the gut. You know, that B12 isn't going to necessarily be easily made or easily absorbed if the status of the intestinal lining there is dealing with a lot of mucus, is really inflamed. That really prevents a lot of that absorption from happening. So, you know, when we don't have very good HCl or stomach acid, that's not necessarily breaking things down easily enough, where if it's too large when it gets there, we're not going to be breaking that down and getting those nutrients. So, you know, a better liver function, better HCl, getting rid of ammonia permeability, decreasing heavy metals in that area of the body is only going to help your body do that job a lot easier. So, and then I wanted to add I wanted to add the MTHFR too.
Okay. I just want to say something really quickly about the elevated biotics and that form of probiotic, also known as these microorganisms. Okay. The elevated biotics is the only form of probiotics that does not get killed off by hydrochloric acid in our stomachs. And this is a pretty bold statement, but it's what Anthony says. You know, the probiotics that we buy as a supplement, the probiotics that are in yogurt and fermented foods, they're dead.
They're dead.
Absolutely no purpose at all.
You're just and if they're not already dead, they're going to die in the digestive process before they even reach the ileum, because the ileum is the very last part of the small intestine.
Yeah.
They're going to die. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, really, really. So one last thing about this is when someone gets and I got it, the MTHFR gene mutation diagnosis, where you're not methylating and not breaking down these nutrients, you know, that can literally be fixed by just eating foods with these elevated biotics over time. Like, I'm certain if I went to go get that blood test again, I would not test positive for that. So it's not a gene mutation. You know, you just need some elevated biotics, and that will help your methylation.
Hi, Dirk. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Amber. I want to say hi to everybody. I know I've missed you.
Yeah. You know, on our screen, like, I can only see two things right now that so-and-so joined. So, like, it can be real, unless we click on it, it's really hard for us to see the comments.
Yeah. And
they don't make it
easy
for you to see.
Hi, Dirk from Switzerland. So
I
want people to interject and like offer what they know about growing food and their experience. And because I continue learning from other people. I am no expert. I am very passionate about experimenting and seeing what happens. And I also grow everything specifically the medical medium way. And that is with just, you know, a couple details. You know, he recommends a fertilizer. The only kind of fertilizer is like, or his favorite is seaweed. Okay. Mm-hmm. And he has a brand we're going to talk about that, Teddy, cilantro in your kitchen. You need to grow them as microgreens in your kitchen. Excuse me, you can also do cilantro sprouts. So he recommends ocean sea minerals as a fertilizer. And, you know, I am someone who I've never measured the pH in my soil. We use a lot of compost, which is what they also known as black dirt. I'm sorry, I'm burping my green juice. And which is food compost, just food compost. I personally don't use any kind of animal manure or anything like that. And so feeding, you can use straight kelp. You can use kelp powder. You can use the ocean sea minerals that he recommends on his website. Let's see. You can use, as far as like kind of getting rid of the damaging insects. For sprouts, do we use seaweed also? For sprouts, for sprouting, I use the ocean sea minerals in a spray bottle, the one that he recommends on his website. And it's 1 tablespoon per gallon. And put it in a spray bottle and you spray your sprouts. You can do it every day. You can do it every other day. You can do it just one time and they will feed you. They will just thrive that much more because they're being fed. Yeah. So another thing you can do is in your garden or anything that is showing signs of damage from insects or a fungus, you can use a small amount of peroxide in water. You can also use a couple drops of either peppermint or rosemary in a gallon of water and spray on your plants. They will not hurt them at all if you're having any kind of damaging insect issues. So
Yeah, Lily, this will be on Michelle's account, so you can come back and watch it.
yeah. Yeah. So does anybody have any specific questions? Mandi, do you have any specific questions? I mean, there's so much. I could talk about this stuff for hours.
Yeah, no, that was what you were just talking about was great. I always wonder, what and how often, like how often are you needing to add things like that to your plants?
I personally, there have been years where I've sprayed my plants. What is growing the medical medium way? What is growing the medical? Well, that's what we're talking about, Sandra. Like everything that I do to grow food is based on what medical medium recommends, and that's natural fertilizer of seaweed. That's talking to your plants, getting to know them, letting them get to know you, and creating that relationship. And another thing I wanted to mention about the elevated biotics is that he says from 20 years ago, the apple that you picked at an orchard and the elevated biotics, the probiotics you got from that is still helping you heal today.
Yeah, that's
they are
amazing.
so,
I remember the first time I did that. I went strawberry picking in Vermont with some relatives that live up there. And I was like maybe 7 or 8 years old and then up there, I remember same trip, I ate an apple off of what was his, one of their neighbors' trees. He was a celebrity, William H. Macy.
oh,
Ate an apple off of his tree. And
painless.
so when I heard that he was talking about that, because I mean, growing up, that was like my only experience was when we went up to Vermont and did that. And then when I was an adult, we did more berry picking and things like that. But when I read that information, I'm like, oh my gosh, just that one trip probably did so much for my gut, which was suffering for so long. Like those were my biggest issues. So yeah, so growing the medical medium way is, talking to your plants, being aware of the 3 processes that Michelle's talking about: growing, picking, and then eating.
Yeah.
Right.
And to
So
answer,
there's a lot in there. There's a lot happening in there too.
hi, Tasha, Southern Wildflower. Oh, so good to see you. So to answer Patricia's question, she said, can you use the cilantro sprouts in place of cilantro in your detox smoothie? And absolutely, those are just baby cilantro. I'm going to grow microgreens in my house of cilantro this year because cilantro likes to bolt and seed in the heat. So I haven't had much success in growing cilantro outside, except now and throughout the winter and in the late fall when it's a lot cooler. I've never
I
grown.
would say too, make sure that it's not just a tiny bit of the microgreens that you're doing in your heavy metal detox smoothie. I would make sure that it's, I mean, you're supposed to do a whole cup of the greens. So I mean, if that's all you have, yes, but I would just do both. I would, maybe throw the cilantro microgreens in the salad and then still do the cilantro and the smoothie. Definitely do both.
Yeah. Amber asks, I've never grown anything before. I'd like to start. What's the absolute easiest thing to grow for someone's first time? Radishes.
I did radishes.
Yeah, radishes. And Anthony's favorite radishes are the purple plum radishes. Uh, and I love them. They're a little sweeter, but you can also grow all the radishes. They take only 30 days to produce. So right now is the
Mm.
best time to plant radish seeds in your space. And, you know, really, there's so many things that are so easy to grow. Like you can grow lettuce if you have the space. Lettuce, you can literally kind of scatter onto the dirt and just kind of brush your hand across it and it will come up. You know, when you plant new seeds, make sure you water them. Keep them moist, I would say once or twice a week. Can I give you a link for sprouting cilantro seeds? Just search it on YouTube. Search on YouTube, Teddy, how to sprout cilantro seeds. It's no different than sprouting anything else. If you ever sprouted any kind of seed in a sprouting tray or a sprouting jar, um, to grow microgreens, I would want like a lot, right? If you have the space, I don't have any in front of me, but they've got 10 by 20 seedling trays that you can get. Okay, they're about, I don't know, 2.5 inches deep, and you can, if all you have is dirt, throw some dirt in there. But you can also, in place of dirt, use a seed starting mix of um, coconut coir or peat moss, mostly, and mix that with a little bit of perlite and maybe some worm castings. Worm castings, organic worm castings, are I think it's just a great fertilizer. And I also use worm castings. It's literally just worm poop, okay? But it has no smell to it. Um, my radish sprouts, they never grow. I don't know why. Full sun, um, some rich soil, enough water. I'm not sure what else would cause them not to grow. But
Maybe the right timing
as far as what now?
for the zone.
Um, Radishes are pretty durable. They can grow. They grew through the winter for me. They'll grow in the middle of the summer.
Oh, okay.
You can get, if you're in a middle zone, like I'm in zone 7, we're in zone 7, you and I, Mandy. Um, there's zone, I don't know if it goes below 5, 4 or 5, up to 11, I believe. Um, the smaller numbers are the colder climates, and the higher numbers are the warmer climates. But in the mid zone, you can, like where we are, we can actually get 3 rounds of succession radish crops. Do you know what I mean by that? So you grow it, like you plant it late winter, okay, and you get a whole round of radishes, and then you can plant it like early summer, get another round, and then late summer and through the fall and winter. Um,
Okay. Wow.
the only
So
reason,
yeah, so they are one of the easier ones to do. They
yeah,
should be at
they come up
least.
really quick too. All herbs, I'm getting off track, but all herbs take a long time to germinate. Okay, so just be patient with that. Um, so in your seed tray, Okay, I'm suggesting either peat moss or coconut coir, so that you prevent fungus gnats, okay, from laying eggs and hatching into your house. Um, there's really nothing for them to feed on when you're using coconut coir peat moss. Okay, it's just like a cleaner medium than bringing in like compost. All right, that is broken down food that's giving them something to feed on. So I've never done microgreens before, but that's what I would do, and that's without researching. Like, but I would research. That's the only way I've learned anything is just research. Someone's done it already. Let them show
Mhm.
you, how to do it successfully. Um, so yeah, were there any other questions on there?
Yeah, Teddy says, how can I get rid of the caterpillars that have decimated my night blooming jasmine in my flower garden?
Um, I don't know specifically. The only natural pesticide that I've used is the peppermint or rosemary oil in water. But there is an organic neem oil that some people use. I choose not to use that, just because, you know, I feel more comfortable using really, really, really natural things, you know. And I try to, make my own. I don't want to like buy something that's already pre-mixed. But if, to keep it organic and you really need something that's going to do it, um, I would probably use neem oil, organic neem oil. Hi, Robin.
Yeah, so guys, keep posting your questions for Michelle on this. One thing that I'm curious about is we'll be doing beds whenever we do get to do it at our property. Um, how deep should the beds be? And does it matter for what you're growing? So when I make all that,
If you have
what
the
should I be
option,
doing?
if you have the option,
Hmm?
if you have the option, and 18 inches is the golden rule.
Okay.
Ours are 12 inches. You know,
Mm.
and that the reason I say, you could do 8 inches, because as long as you're building your beds on top of soil and you're not putting like a layer of plastic down under your beds, those earthworms are going to come up, and they're going to come up and feed on your soil. Um, so they're going to naturally aerate the earth below it. So essentially, you've got the depths of the earth, right, for those roots to go. But ours are like, I want to say 10 inches, because we used the most inexpensive form of boards, which is from a local sawmill. It's rough cut sawmill lumber. It's oak. Oak lasts the longest, okay, as far as breaking down over time. And, excuse me, yeah, they're like 10 inches. You may have to replace them in 5 to 8 years, you know, but right now they're growing turkey tail mushrooms on them in a lot of places.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I've seen some videos where people will like start to like they'll do like different layers. They won't just do soil. They'll do like cardboard and newspaper and like pine needles just to like fill it up. And like they say that will eventually compost. I was
So
curious if you've ever tried anything like that.
yeah, the reason they put cardboard down is to kill off grass or anything or weeds growing.
Mm,
Um, I'll answer the mushroom question Sandra's seeing. Uh, but I would never use cardboard or newspaper, because
I wouldn't want to use newspaper.
they have
No,
chemicals in them,
they do.
glues. So what a lot of people do, though, if you don't have the medium, the dirt, to fill up your beds, they'll take whatever natural substances, tree branches, pine needles, leaves, um, and just throw them in like big chunky pieces of things. And then whatever dirt they have, they'll throw on top of that. It will break down and it will, you know, it will lower itself over time. You just, fill
Mhm.
it up with more dirt. But the earthworms will come up. Some people throw their compost, their whole bananas, um, their personal compost to start a bed. And that because the earthworms, that's going to attract the earthworms to come up and feed on that, which is going to bring the earthworms into your garden, which is what you want. I mean, they
Would it
feed.
attract other pests?
It could, but I mean, you know, there are, okay, a great movie to watch is The Biggest Little Farm. The
Oh,
Biggest
right.
Little
Yeah.
Farm. Um, Everything works harmoniously and divinely in perfect law. So for all the damaging insects you have beneficial insects. Okay. The wasps, they eat the ants. All right. I mean, there are the ladybugs, they eat the damaging insects. So I want people to not get in the mindset of how can I kill this off? Because there's something out there that's naturally going to kill it off. If you kind of just leave things alone and don't mess with it so much, they usually take care of themselves. It's nature, you know.
That would be my approach.
Yeah,
Because I would just want to avoid the problem.
yeah. Um, it's kind of hard. It'll still be okay to grow. Yes, clay is some of the best dirt to actually grow in, Amber. And Sandra, you're asking me about my mushroom beds. I have deer, and apparently they like mushrooms.
Hmm.
So, of the only, I planted chicken of the wood on dead logs and wood chip mulch. I planted portobello mushrooms and I planted, these were grain spores that I spread. And I did the lasagna method of wood chip spores, wood chip spores, wood chip spores. Um, in the shade, keep them damp uh, in the beginning. I watered them down like heavy, and then they just stay damp because they're in the shade, and the wood chip holds moisture. So I'm hoping this year they'll sprout up and I can get to them before the deer do. But
Mhm.
and wine cap was the third that I planted. So I did find a couple big wine cap mushrooms that were kind of chewed on and taken out of the space. They were like right on the edge. And I've never seen wine cap on the property before, so I'm pretty sure they grew right there where I planted them. But I think I have to get to them before the deer or squirrels. I don't know
Mhm.
if squirrels eat mushrooms or not.
I know bears do, and we have bears at our property.
Okay, yeah, we do too.
I did a mushroom plugging workshop, and I brought home 2 logs, shiitakes. They're by the creek. I probably need to dunk them though soon.
I don't know
That
how
was in
anything about that.
January.
I don't know anything about that. So now I've only just winged it,
They,
with
they
the
need to
lasagna.
be, yeah, they need to be moist and in the shade.
Hmm.
Um,
But
mhm.
plugging the log process, I really don't know much of anything about.
It was so easy. You just have to know the type of wood. I honestly forget what they provided for us. And I have a whole bunch of notes from that workshop, but yeah, just you just drill a hole with like this tool. I don't remember what it was called either, but you drill a hole. There's many ways to do it, but that's how we did it at the workshop. And then you take what's the stuff called? The spore stuff? The sawdust, the spores in
The
the
grain,
sawdust.
well, did you use as a syringe?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's the actual mushroom spores in there.
Right, the spore is it's in sawdust. You just buy it, and then you just scoop it, and then you plug it. You scoop it and you plug it. Easiest thing. It was so cool.
Wow.
But because they're down by the creek, I guarantee if anything grows that the bears will probably get it. So we'll see. We'll see what that turns into.
Oh, was it Amber who asked about the radishes, why they're not growing? So one thing that I'm doing this year that I've never done before is I'm using mulch in my garden. I've read a book called The No Work Garden Book by Ruth Stout. The No Work Garden Book by Ruth Stout. And I don't think she's with us any longer, but she, for almost 100 years, grew food successfully using hay as mulch. Um, she recommends hay, straw, pine needles, wood chips, weeds, grass cuttings, chopped up leaves, whatever you can get your hands on to create a barrier on top of your soil so that you literally don't even have to water your garden if you use mulch. Um, I'm using hay this year simply because we were able to get it free from a local friend who has stables, horse stables, and we know that they don't spray out there. So I'm literally covering all of my beds with about 5 to 6 inches of hay. If you mulch whatever's not growing well for you, I think you'll see a miraculous transformation.
Mm.
Because, yeah, Nicholas, yeah, your dad uses it. So what kind of mulch does he use, Nicholas? Does he use wood chip mulch or hay or straw? I'm always curious what people use because, you know, it's a misconception that wood chip mulch is too acidic for your plants. That's BS. That you can actually use wood chip mulch. So by using mulch of any kind, it naturally creates a moisture barrier. Wood chip, see, he uses wood chip. That's awesome to know. And so you never have to water your plants. It also protects the base of your plants from the beating sun, from damaging insects. It prevents weeds, and um, you know, it just helps you not have to even manage it. And then every year you just put more mulch on top of what breaks down. It'll break down naturally into compost.
Mm.
So I'm really excited to use that this year and see what
Okay,
happens.
that's awesome.
Yeah, because my tomatoes every year they get blight, and I believe that if by using the hay mulch this year, they're just going to be more protected, you know, um, and always balanced with moisture and having everything that they need. So it creates the perfect pH. I mean, it's just incredible what the mulch will do for your plants. And most people don't use it. Most people don't use it. So we'll see.
Yeah, I never would have thought to.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So we've got about 10 minutes left. Are there any other specific questions about growing food that you guys might have? I'm growing.
You know, I'm curious, while we're waiting for someone's question, I'm curious of when do I put my tomato seedlings outside in a pot, in a container?
You
When
want
do
them,
I transplant them?
you want them to be at least 6 inches tall. Okay.
Mm, okay.
And tomatoes like their stems covered. If you'll notice when the tomato plants grow branches, you'll get these little nobbins on them. Those little roots trying to come out. Um, do you have any other foods that are easy to grow? Yeah, let me think about that, Amber. So, Mandy, you want to cover the stems of your tomato plants, like bring dirt up onto the stems, okay? And then if you have
Okay.
mulch on top of them, that's even better. Um, okay, so favorite thing to grow. um,
There's another
Other,
one too.
yeah, other things that are easy to grow. And I forgot the first one.
You know, Anthony said cucumbers are really easy.
Yep, yep. My favorite cucumber of all time that I've tried so far is green finger. Green finger cucumbers. They're so good. So back to your question. If you're growing seedlings inside your home or a greenhouse using grow lights or whatever you're doing, you're starting them indoors. You really only have to do that with tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant. And you don't even have to do that. You can straight sow the seeds after your last threat of frost. Okay. But Mandy, since you're growing them inside, you want to harden them off, right? And hardening them off means acclimating them to the outside climate, right? You want to choose a day that around 10 days before you're going to transplant them into your garden. So say your last frost date is May 1st. You want to consider starting to harden off your plants like the last week in April, give or take. You want to put them outside on ladybugs. That was the question. How to bring beneficial ladybugs. You want to create a habitat. And the best way to create a habitat to bring ladybugs into your garden is when your plants die off, leave them alone through the winter so that they have a natural habitat to grow and reproduce. The asparagus that we grow is a perfect example. It's a great habitat for ladybugs. So on the first day, you put your plants outside to harden them off to Mother Nature, all right? Because they've been very nurtured and protected in your home. You want to put them out 1 hour before sunset and leave them out there for 1 hour, not in the direct sun, not on a windy day, not on a rainy day, literally 1 hour before sunset in kind of a shaded area, bring them in. It's a kind of a grueling process that you have to do daily. The second day, put it out two hours before sunset. Bring them back in. Third day, 3 hours. Fourth day, 4 hours. And if it's a windy day, skip it. Just don't put them out there because you could literally, you can break them off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, they look really delicate.
Yeah. So the other easy things to grow, oh my gosh, I'm growing like 200 varieties of food this year. It's almost easier to say what's not easy. Like the things that are not so easy are like melons. I don't personally grow corn, right? So Anthony talks about corn and beets being like predominantly GMO now. So it's hard to find seeds that have not been contaminated, right? Because everything, a lot of things are open pollinated and they cross contaminate. So I don't grow corn and I don't grow beets. You can, he says.
But they're also not healing foods, you know. I would want to put my energy towards more foods that are definitely going to heal me.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, lettuces are easy to grow. Cucumbers easy to grow. Always search, you know, and learn what your zone is, your planting zone, and that will tell you so much about what you can grow and when. I grow by the moon. I grow specifically by the moon, and so you can find that information on the Farmer's Almanac online, or if you buy the Farmer's Almanac book. Best way to grow sprouts, microgreens. I struggle growing mine. Let's see. Tomatoes, I mean, everything's really easy to grow. The peas right now, if you're in, you know, if you have if you're still having frosts, like our last frost date is like around mid-May this year, which is strange because last year it was mid-April. You can plant all the root vegetables right now. All the root vegetables are super easy to grow. Carrots, parsnips, turnips, radishes. Uh, you can also plant any kind of peas, snow peas, sugar snap peas, shelling peas. They love the cool weather. Now is the perfect time, assuming you're in the same similar zone, to grow cilantro. Plant cilantro seed. All herbs, like I said, take a long time to come up, so you have to be patient. Sometimes 2, 3, 4 weeks before they'll show up. But I'll get a harvest from all my peas that are coming up right now, and then I'll, at that point, transplant all my tomatoes that I'm growing in the greenhouse.
Do you think if I juice the cucumbers I grow, I will still get the elevated biotics?
Oh my gosh, you'll get more elevated biotics than buying them from the store.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So you have to remember the elevated biotics are the microorganisms that survive, right? Those tiny little microorganisms, which are bugs that survive the weather. So, and they're going to survive your hydrochloric acid in your stomach. They're going to survive a juicer. They're the best things to juice. Yeah, anything.
Did you address best way to grow sprouts microgreens? Christian says that he struggles to grow theirs.
Anthony says when you're using a sprouting tray or the jars that you should soak your seeds overnight. I have learned that when I soak, I love to sprout pea sprouts, green pea sprouts. And I'm in zone 10A, so you grow sprouts, microgreens in soil. I honestly have never grown microgreens. I was just saying earlier.
Sprouts, yeah, sprouts don't use soil. Yeah, sprouts you're going to, like for sprouts, get like a sprouting jar. It has like a little mesh lid. You can soak them overnight in the jar, just the sprouting seeds. Then in the morning you drain the water and then rinse it 2 to 3 times a day and spray your ocean sea minerals and you'll have sprouts. Pea sprouts, like Michelle's talking about, I started doing that a few months ago because she talked about it. They are so delicious. I can eat them like popcorn.
Yeah.
They're incredible. They don't taste like popcorn, but I can eat them like popcorn.
They're nuts.
And then microgreens is what you would use soil with when Michelle was talking about the seed tray and that whole thing.
Yeah, but I don't know anything about that. I would search that online. Let someone else show you how to do that properly. But sprouting, I was just going to suggest that and we've got 2 minutes left. Sprouting, I don't soak the peas. I rinse them in the tray. Nope. And I found that if I don't soak the peas, you know how like after a few days they'll start to turn brown? Have you noticed that?
Yeah, they lose their green color.
Yeah, so they don't turn brown on me if I don't soak them. I just rinse them, take the water off. Where do you buy seeds for sprouts? Amazon, look for organic. Yeah, Anthony has some on his website under preferred. I think it's under supplements. You can buy your seeds for sprouting at your local health food store. Yep. Yep. Just go look for organic. So I wanted to make sure that we stopped exactly at 1 o'clock today because Anthony is going live on Amazon.
Right. Yeah. So to give everyone an opportunity to watch him.
Yeah. So I don't want to take up his time, and I would like to get on it too. So there's so much more we could talk about, and please feel free to send me a private message if you have questions, or search on YouTube. YouTube has taught me how to grow food. Other than the medical medium way of growing food in a spiritual way, which is so magical. I've learned from others, and I keep learning from others, and I keep making mistakes, and it's okay. It's how you learn how to do it. Yeah. Thank you all so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you all. And feel free to reach out to me for any help with your medical medium protocols. Yeah, thanks for coming on here, everybody, and giving us an audience. It's so much fun having you here.
I know. We could do this for like 3 more hours. I could.
I know. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Yeah. Thank
Such
you.
a wealth of knowledge on everything.
Thank you. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
Bye, guys, for now.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you too, girl.
All right.